There's a lot of numbers in Northern California, but this week there's only one that counts. 636. This is a new ZX-6R from Kawasaki. It's got 636cc capacity, it's got traction control and a whole load of other changes, and we're here at Thunderhill Park, north of San Francisco, to see how it goes. Tomorrow we're going to be riding it on the street, so it's going to be a good test of the bike that looks like putting the Supersport middleweight class back in the map. The ZX-6R first had its capacity increased to 636cc back in 2002, and Kawasaki kept that engine size the following year for the aggressive all-new ZX-6R B1 that was one of the models with which the firm relaunched itself as a maker of high-performance bikes. One key difference between those old 636cc models and this new Ninja is that this time round the extra capacity comes from a longer stroke rather than a bigger bore. That's because Kawasaki are trying to make this ZX-6R a more rideable street bike.
What we did is really concentrated to how we can make this product to the street direction. So this is the main point of the development direction. So of course already we have the racing performance. So how much we can add street performance on this bike without losing racing mind.
The changes to the 16-valve motor include new cams, reshaped ports, new pistons, and it gets a high-tech FCC slipper clutch with a lighter action. It also has a bigger airbox, new fuel injectors, and a modified exhaust that links all the four downpipes. This bike also gets some high-tech electronics, adapted from other models including the ZX-10R and the ZZR1400. There's a choice of 2 power modes. There's also a 3-way adjustable KTRC traction control system. Chassis changes are aimed at improving comfort and usability as much as performance. There's a longer, softer rear shock with a more progressive linkage, plus a new separate function version of Showa's big piston forks, with preload adjustment on the left leg, damping on the right. The brakes are upgraded with bigger discs, Nissan monoblock calipers, and there's an optional KIBS anti-lock system too. New bodywork means this ZX-6R looks more like the ZX-10R, and it goes a bit more like it too, as we've got to find out at Thunderhill Park. It's hilly and technical, sort of a less posh version of Laguna Seca, so a fantastic place to put the Kawasaki to the test. Here we are on the main straight, and first thing to say about the bike is it's really fast in a straight line. Over 140 and it's still accelerating hard in 5th gear, and I have to brake at the end of the straight, tip it into this fast uphill left-hander down 2 gears, very short straight down another one for this much longer left. It goes on and on and on this one, and the bike here really good, really stable. It's a long corner, you're on part throttle all the way around, and the bike just tracks around really well. It's got these R10 track day Bridgestones on, which were very good, especially in really glad of them around this tricky off-camber right-hander, which was looked a bit dodgy the surface, but the bike did really well. And here's where it's really good, flicking right to left through here. It's just incredibly light steering, one of the lightest steering bikes I've ever known, but very stable, up over the hill, down the crest, a bit like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. Again, it pulls from about 7,000 here, which is about as low as the revs ever get on the track, but pulled fine there, but most of the time you don't need to worry about that, because you're keeping it really above 11,000 between there and then the red line, which is 16,000, and just flicking through the gears. Gearbox is really good. Turning it in through here fast, a couple of left-handers, which takes really well. There's a bit of a dip in one of them. Up the hill towards the chicane, steers really well through here, uphill chicane over the route, and the bike goes light. The handlebars, you can see the flick of the handlebars there as it goes down, plunging down the hill. Picking up speed again. There's the hardest bit of braking down here, really hard into here, and the brakes, the uprated Nissan radial calipers and the bigger disc doing a really good job. Here's a left-right left chicane, which is a really weird corner because you're going running over the dirt and just opening it up onto the straight here, struggling to get the foot under the gear lever here because you've got the weight in the footrest and it changes so quickly. Up here, down and into another hard bit of braking. Bike just moving around a fraction, probably could have done with firming up the suspension a fraction at the front, but here it's running wide, tipping it back in hard on the acceleration, traction control, just maybe kicking in a couple of times there, but most of the time in level 1 you don't really feel it. And again, back onto the straight, and it's accelerating through the gears again. That's the lap. Next day it's a whole lot more relaxed. Here's the Kawasaki at the start of the road ride, Lake Oroville, north of Sacramento. It's a really beautiful part of Northern California. I hadn't ridden a bike up here before, and there's just some fantastic roads. And I have to say the ZX-6R was really impressive. The engine was very good, smooth and free revving, pulled pretty well through the mid-range, although to be honest I'm not sure it really noticed a great deal of difference between this bike and the previous 599cc one. Really only a few horsepower after all. But the injection was very smooth, throttle response was good. You need about 8,000 RPM on the tacho before it really starts pulling hard. But it will accelerate fine below that speed, just not massively strongly. Typical middleweight really, but probably just a bit stronger than the other Japanese fours. Here I'm following the other riders and the pace is pretty relaxed and the Kawasaki was comfortable enough. I'm very tall and didn't feel particularly cramped, although the riding position is naturally pretty racy. And unfortunately there's no adjustability of the bars or footrests. But I thought legroom was reasonable, and unlike some previous models the screen was big enough to give a good view of the new instrument panel, which has digital speedo and analog tacho, as you can see there. This is the bend where we did some of the photographs, and after that I went off on my own, and you can see here that through a lot of the bends I wasn't really revving it anything like as hard as the track, keeping it between 8 and about 12,000 RPM most of the time, and it was really pulling fine at those speeds, really strongly. Certainly pretty quick. You can adjust the traction control on the move, also the power mode, although I couldn't see much point in the low power mode, which just cuts the maximum to about 80% all the way through. Didn't really need it on a middleweight like this. It was very docile power delivery at low revs. But traction control could be very useful on slippery roads, and this is the first Japanese middleweight to get it. Really big difference with this bike I thought was how comfortable it was for a super sports bike, mainly due to the suspension. For the road the Kawasaki mechanics had put it back to standard after firming it up and adding a 4mm shim in the shock to tip the rear end up a bit on the track yesterday. In the standard settings it just really felt plush, with very good ride quality. The roads were pretty smooth, but the Kawasaki just made them feel even smoother, and I think that'll be a big benefit in normal road riding for most riders. So that's one significant change really, I think, and really backs up what Yoshihiro Masuda, the project leader, had said they were planning to do with this bike. Handling was still really good on standard showroom settings. The bike was very stable and steered with a light touch on the bars, and the front end was firm enough to let me use the super powerful brake hard too. Overall I think Kawasaki have done an excellent job with this Ninja. The other Japanese firms seem to have pretty much abandoned the class, but Kawasaki have given it their best shot, and they produced a bike that works as well on the street as it does on the racetrack, and which really brings the middleweight supersports class back to life.